In the unprecedented times of the 2020 pandemic, our country's digital divide became widely exposed, and the effects of increasing economic and digital inequalities became more apparent. As the founder and president of a technology firm, Ed Christmas questioned the reason for this, as well as the underrepresentation of Blacks in the field of technology and entrepreneurship. On this podcast, Ed Christmas talks with guests about what is their why and the road they are on to bring our society to a place of greater economic and digital equality while sharing the good news of those making a difference. Welcome to The Road to Why, presented through the partnership of Cisco and Sology Solutions, a proud member of the African American Cisco partner community.
Welcome to The Road to Why, where we highlight individuals and organizations that are making a difference and having an impact on our community. I am your host, Ed Christmas, and I am pleased to have joined me today Gabriel Beltran, Assistant VP for Dallas Area Rapid Transit. Welcome, Gabriel. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Mr. Christmas. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks for coming on. I know it's been a while since we communicated, but this show is about, getting minorities involved in technology and how they are making an impact in our communities and organizations like yourself, how you're impacting our underserved communities. So with that said, I know you're playing several roles at DART. Do you want to just share with the audience, your current role and how you're helping out the organization as well?
And just as a real quick history, so about 3 years ago, we had a mass exodus of employees at the agency. We had an early retirement incentive program, and at that time we had a lot of employees that had a lot of tenure at DART. And many of them took the early retirement. It was right at the beginning of the pandemic. And so we lost a lot of leadership, a lot of people that had been there for a long time, a lot of upper management. Even our CEO took that advantage of that package. At that time, I was placed in the interim vice president role for, at that time, the department was called the Department of Diversity. And the responsibilities and roles of that department was Title VI compliance, EEO compliance, ADA compliance, as well as WBE compliance, minority and women business programs, and small business. So I had been interim over that department, interim vice president for about 3 years. And that was until about 3 weeks ago, where we actually brought on our new vice president. The department is now called EEO and Cultural Engagement.
Okay.
A lot of that is because due to the current political and cultural climate that we live in, we've had to change the name of the department, as well as some of the roles that were originally within that department have been moved out and put into our procurement department. So over the past 3 years, I've been VP of that department, but as of right now, my current role is Assistant Vice President for Diversity and Vendor Management, which is in essence responsible for the implementation of the DBE program, WBE program, small business program at the agency.
Got it. How long have you been doing that role?
Oh man, so that role. Well, let me just say I've been at the agency for over 20 years.
Okay.
I came in as a summer intern in 1999.
Wow.
And that was all within the same department. At that time, it was called Diversity and Economic Opportunity, but basically the same roles and responsibilities. The Department of Civil Rights is really what it was. And I've been in that role, working in that capacity my entire professional career. So since I've been 20 years old, that's what I've known. It's the only thing I've known.
Right. And
I have a very strong passion for working with minority and women-owned businesses. And it's one of the main reasons why I did not apply for the vice president role that's currently in place now, because the role of the small business and MWE program got moved out of that department.
Got it.
So when that happened, I knew that I was not going to apply for the VP role, and now that it's in procurement. But I love working with companies like you, getting to know individuals like you, seeing small businesses grow,
right?
Graduate from the DBE program and grow their capacity and grow their employee base, and just see them be successful for their employees and families. That means a lot to me.
That's awesome. And I'm glad you're in that role. And I know the exodus that happened, and like you said, it was right at the pandemic, so timing was perfect, and ridership decreased. So I'm very familiar with everything that was going on at the agency. Talk to me about DART, and DART, for people that aren't in Dallas, Dallas Area Rapid Transit Agency. Talk to me about what their mission and vision is for the community and how they're impacting the community.
Right. So it's funny you mentioned that, because we're actually going through somewhat of a change into the old guard of what our old vision and expectations were for the agency as well as for the public. And we have a new CEO. Our previous CEO, Mr. Gary Thomas, left our agency after being there for about 20 years. And so our new CEO, Miss Nadine Lee, coming from LA Metro, she's really shaken the place up, and for the better, in my opinion. She's been a breath of fresh air to the agency ever since she's came on board. And one of the things, first things she did was, replace a lot of these senior management, executive management was there. And now she's really focused on changing the culture at DART. And that includes a new strategic vision at the agency where, obviously we're here to serve the public. And in the past, DART has really been a construction agency, purchasing land, building out our light rail system, and not really having focused on the maintenance of our system and the quality of service that we've been given to our employees, to our customers. Ridership, right. And so that's her real focus right now is to make a strong commitment to the community, making sure that DART is a mobility and an economic driver within our North Texas region, because we know that our region is going to be growing millions and millions in the next 20 years. So we have to be ready for that. We can't keep expanding our freeways. As I'm looking right here at the 635, there's nowhere left or right that we can build out those freeways at all. And if you see this at 5 o'clock, you know that it's extremely crowded. So we're really building our transit system with that in mind for the future, for the growth of this region.
So mobility being such a key piece, and when we talk about underserved communities, it didn't hit me. I'm originally from New York. It didn't hit me until I came to Dallas to realize how important transportation is. In New York, as you can imagine, there's plenty of subways. There's plenty of what I call arteries throughout the city. You could get to anywhere. I noticed I was working with youth, and we were trying to get them internships at certain parts of Dallas. And it was just difficult, even with DART. How does that change? Because you talked about you can't build any more freeways. There's not a lot of land either to keep building what I call fixed tracks. Does technology play a part of this at all?
Yeah, technology is a huge part of that strategic vision. One of the things historically about DART, and in general in the North Texas region, for people that are watching this video podcast that don't live in the North Texas region, historically in Dallas, public transit has always been seen as something we don't may necessarily want in our neighborhood, right? It brings a particular type of person to our neighborhood, and it's just not looked upon favorably. And we're really trying to change that, especially in a big car culture in which we live in Texas. And one of the factors that's involved in Nadine's strategic vision is a 10 by 10 plan. So that what that means is that when an individual gets off of our system, whether it's rail or bus, that they're able to have a 10-minute walk to whatever location that they're trying to reach. And then when they return, that they only have to wait no longer than 10 minutes to receive that service, whether it's rail or bus. So in order to do that, our systems have to be smart with technology. We have to have ITS. We have to have smart signals systems for our buses only to operate, not have to follow the same traffic signals as our cars and trucks on the road. And so we have to use smart GPS, smart mapping. So yeah, all that's involved into this our new strategic plan moving forward.
No, that's awesome. As you know, technology changed the whole ride sharing roadmap when the Ubers came into town. Are there partnerships with those types of ridership?
Right. Yeah. So we do have partnerships with Uber and Lyft currently, and we also operate a on-call service as well within certain areas of our service area, where they can call DART, and actually we'll be able to provide them a ride just like they would with Uber or Uber and Lyft. So yeah, go ahead, sir.
Talk to me about affordability, because when I think of Uber, there's certain parts of our city that they're not going to be willing to jump into an Uber. Does DART offset that in any way when you're dealing in underserved communities and them having to be complemented to get to a train station or bus transfer center?
Yeah, so the service that we provide, it's there's no surge pricing or anything like that, like you would see in a typical rideshare with Uber and Lyft. We have a fair policy, just like we do for our trains and buses. It's the same for that particular service as well.
Got it. So what are some of the challenges in your role? You talked about diversity and vendor management, and I've known you in the role for many years, and I think you've done an outstanding job. What are some of the challenges that you're seeing maybe in the past as well as in the future?
Right. So right now, a lot of things are going on that I haven't seen in 20 plus years that I've been in this business. External factors, internal factors. We have people at the highest levels of our agency that do not support all of a sudden minority women-owned business programs. Obviously, we have a governor in this state that doesn't support minority women-owned programs. And so we're dealing with political forces, we're dealing with internal forces, and there's been an attack on just the word diversity. That's why we had to change the name of our department. So we have to, we're kind of in a mode now where we're going to keep doing what we're going to do, what's important. Nadine has made a commitment to keep our programs going forward. I know there's been some legal challenges in Houston, as close as Houston. Obviously, there's some challenges to the WBE program on a federal level as well. And that's because they're using reverse discrimination, right? So basically, the WBE program and WBE program covers every single individual except white males. And so that particular group is really using, quote unquote, reverse racism, right, to attack those programs. And so it is very challenging right now. As long as I'm in the role and the position that I hold, I'm going to be going full steam ahead and act like nothing and operate like nothing is happening, because I know at the end of the day, if you do what's right, you can't be in the wrong.
Exactly. And it's just not DART. So this isn't a DART issue. This is all agencies are faced with it. You mentioned it. It's coming from the governor putting pressure. And it's just a political environment. And unfortunately, it's become a negative word, right? The whole DEI. With that said, what have these programs brought to the agency? When you talk about someone coming up, it's important for us to have diversity. It's important for us to have small businesses. What was the benefit for DART?
Right. So, at the end of the day, we're a publicly funded transit system. So we wouldn't exist without our sales tax that we receive. Every single person that goes to the Galleria Mall, right across the freeway there, whatever they spend, some of that money is going to DART. And so we want to make sure that in all of our procurement opportunities, that every single person has an opportunity to be involved in that. And we all pay taxes, and it's a publicly funded system. And so everyone should be able to be awarded a contract or be involved in our contracting processes some way, somehow. And I've seen businesses, start out, construction companies that just start out just, laying concrete, very basic work, 5 employees. And I've seen that same company 10, 15 years later, now joint venturing $100 million projects with huge office spaces, multi-floor office spaces, dozens of trucks, construction equipment, hundreds of employees. And just to see that, it really strikes a chord in my heart, because by no means would I take any credit for that, because that credit is all due to them.
Right.
But allowing them to at least provide them an opportunity, right, for success at an agency like DART, where there's plenty of opportunities for small businesses to exceed. It just makes me extremely happy.
So can I add to that participation?
Right.
I use the term, or we use it from a small business perspective, having a seat at the table.
Right.
Inclusion is another word you'll hear that's being negative. But at the end of the day, we all know, especially in construction, it was a good old boy network. Solar-G Solutions is in technology. We see it in technology. Kind of the purpose of this show was to highlight the struggle of minorities participating in technology, whether it's on the engineering side or the sales side. So we know the struggle's there. It's real. So when you talk about the success stories, you're talking about taking a company that, had 5 people and now they have 50 people and, participating in $1 million project and $100 million project. I like to use the word for the city as well as the agency. It's about economic development, right?
Right.
Because that company that's local, that had 5 people, that have 50 or 100 now, they're here in our community. So they're participating in the development and the growth of the community. So it has a community impact,
it does.
I like to say. So I commend you for your work and what you're doing. Talk to me about your why. This show is, the road to why. You talked about being in law enforcement. That was your dream, to be a police officer or a detective or what have you. And you've taken a whole different journey in where you are now. Do you think you're at the point where you're providing the same give back that you would have been able to do in law enforcement?
I would say so. The whole reason why I wanted to have a career in law enforcement, because, when we all look in the mirror, we all know the person who we see, right? We know what makes them tick every day and what means a lot to you when you look in the mirror, right? And one of the things that that's always been very important to me was to just this want and need to help other individuals. And so I always saw that law enforcement would be a way to do that. So I grew up in I was born in 79. So a lot of my teenage years were in the 90s. And at that time here in Dallas, we had very, very active gang activity during that time. A lot of high crime. And I was born and raised in Oak Cliff, grew up in Oak Cliff, still live in Oak Cliff. And, I saw a lot of things happen then. And a lot of times police were seen as the enemy, right? Mm-hmm. They were not seen as a friend or any kind of help whatsoever. And so I wanted to be a part of something different than that. I wanted to be inserted into that and change that and be a help to our community. And so that's why that mixed in just with my innate need to want to help people wanted me to have a career in law enforcement. I tried a couple of times to become a police officer. I even went the federal route with the FBI, and it just didn't work out. But as I just happened to have an internship with DART at that particular civil rights department, I could see there that I may not be able to help people on the criminal justice side of the shop, but as far as acting in a civil rights capacity, helping small businesses grow and helping them in that way, it really met that need, gave me that opportunity to assist people in that way. And I think in my tenure there, I think I've been able to do that.
What would you say was the most rewarding experience you had in your role? What do you recall where you said, aha, this is it. I love what I'm doing? Yeah.
So without saying names of companies or vendors or anything like that, you have to be a master of conflict resolutions, and it's one of the hats you have to wear in my role. And so there was a time where a small firm, construction company, was completely losing millions of dollars on a monthly basis because the prime contractor was not paying them in a timely manner, and then would argue with them on invoices and things like that. This grown man sitting in front of me crying, right, about how am I going to pay my employees, right. And has all this stuff to do. So I bring that particular subcontractor in. I bring the prime in. I let them hash out what's going on and let them lay everything on the table in front of me. And during that discussion, it was obvious that the prime contractor was doing that subcontractor wrong. And so what I did is, sometimes to get things done, especially at a public agency where there's a lot of red tape, if you follow the rules, sometimes it's okay to break the rules, right? Sometimes it's better to just ask for forgiveness and permission. You go above everyone's head, and you go straight to finance to get things done, to get monies paid out to this company, which I did. I went above my own boss's head. I went above everyone else that was above me at that time to demand that this person gets paid. Right. That DART pay him right now, and then we recoup later on the prime contractor. So I had to talk to our CFO and our CEO at that particular time, bring him in. All this without even talking to the VP of my department. Right. But at the end of the day, it was the right thing to do, and it was justifiable, and it got done, and that really meant a lot to me, and it meant a lot to that. And he's never forgotten that. Yeah. And we still stay in contact. And holidays we'll reach out to her to make sure everything's going well. But yeah, that was really life-changing for me, and from a professional perspective. Yeah.
I heard a term earlier called connecting passion with purpose, and I think that day it kind of all came together with you. Right. That's awesome. Let me just ask you, you're talking about a company that was not paying their subs. Mm-hmm. Did they remain and I don't want to know names, did they remain a DART prime?
They did not. Okay. That's part of my role now, and other part of diversity and vendor management is to make sure that we're evaluating these vendors after the fact, after the contract's out. We evaluate them from A to C, every aspect of the contract, something that wasn't being done before. So that way, if they ever decide to bid or propose on anything else, we'll have that evaluation handy and we can always reference it.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk to me about your upbringing. Who influenced your life? What gave you this drive, even if it was in law enforcement? Who set the vision for you?
I'm a little bit of a weird cat when it comes to that. You may see me talk out of both sides of my mouth, but my biggest influence was my father.
Okay.
He was a Vietnam vet, 2 tours in Vietnam, 2 Purple Hearts, Bronze Star, and in raising me, he brought that type of military mentality, discipline to the household. At the time, I hated it. He'd bring me to the restroom every time I didn't, dry out the sink after washing my hands and had to take your shoes off. It just was like, he's the type that he would go drop his clothes off of the cleaners, have them heavily starched, take them out of the plastic and iron them again. So,
wow.
Yeah, so that was him. But, very regimented lifestyle. I didn't like it at the time, but as I got older, I really appreciated it, especially when I started to leave my parents, right, move out of the house and that type of thing. And I found myself doing the same thing. So he was a huge influence on me, taught me about respect, taught me how to treat other people. I guess during more of my impressionable years, though, music has a very big impression on me.
Awesome.
And so, one of my favorite bands in the world is a band called Rage Against the Machine, and they're very active in the political scene. And the front man for that particular band is named Zach De La Rocha, and this is pre-internet years, right? Okay. So he would stand on the stage and talk about political prisoners like Leonard Peltier and Mumia Abu-Jamal, and I'm listening to this guy talk about these types of things, right? And I'm like, let me go find out about some. Go to the library, reading about these individuals, the Zapatistas in Chiapas, Mexico, and the indigenous movement there, and it's just really, flooding my mind with these things that are going on that I had no idea about. So even though I'm a big supporter of our country, I'm a big supporter of America, there's things that I've done for this country no one would know about or I could even speak to. I love this country to death, but I also know I cannot walk blind through this life.
Absolutely.
To know that this country has done a lot of wrong as well. And, so I was very impressionable about both of those things growing up. So to see people that live in a world now, especially on a political side where they're either red or blue and there's no in between, I don't understand that. Yeah. You got to be able to see everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. You were influenced by 2 different sides, right? You had the discipline in your father. And by the way, hats off to him being a vet and doing what he did for this country, but also you got awareness of some of the things that were done wrong here, right? And it continues, right? And I'm surprised you talk about things like critical race theory and, just the weaponization, I should say, of DEI now. It's that political environment coming back to our country that really could take us back. And that's a whole nother topic, so I'm not going to bore us with that.
A few months away from an election year, right?
Yeah, exactly. But with all of that said, in today's political environment, and I'm just speaking as small business myself, what do you tell the DBE, WMBE, the small business, what do you tell them when they feel like the seat is being removed from the table? How would you communicate that to them?
Well, to that point, real quickly, I will mention this. There has been and you may have seen it from some of your colleagues, a tendency to sell out. A lot of these small businesses I've seen, it's almost a trend, especially on the professional services side, are being acquired by larger firms, and that's one of the trends that I'm seeing now. But when I have these conversations with smaller companies, luckily in North Texas, the region is the economy here in this region does very well, so it lays the foundation for small businesses to grow better than somewhere else within the state. But you have to just tell them to fight the good fight. You tell them to get certifications in my world are very important. First and foremost, you want to get that DBE certification. Once you graduate from that, keep that MWBE certification because 2 things. Once, if you're not certified, I don't see you. You don't exist in my world. Right. I cannot utilize you as availability out there for our minority and women-owned business goals. So to keep your certifications first and foremost is very important. And at the end of the day, having relationships with our small business our USDOT small business contacts that have tons of free resources when it comes to credit management, bonding, and insurance, and all those types of extra things that especially a new small business owner may not really think are important. But when you're bidding on projects at a public agency, are very important.
Got it. How would someone learn how to do business with DART if they are a small business, minority business? How would they learn that?
Yeah, so that would be working closely with our department. We have an outreach a division within our department that keeps close ear to the ground to all of our new and emerging businesses from the minority and women status. We also have a small business academy on an annual basis where we invite only firms that have never done any work with DART before, so they can come in, and we have, our VP of procurement, we'll have VP of finance, we'll have USDOT staff come and talk to them about credit management and bonding, insurance, and it's a whole 2-day session where they can learn everything about how to submit bids and proposals with DART.
I recall that program. We went through it several years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So
and it's expanded since then. So yeah,
really,
yeah.
So Gabriel, we're wrapping up here, but I want to give you a chance to kind of close out and look at the audience and anything you want to share in your closing remarks.
Oh, well, first off, let me just thank you, Mr. Christmas. Thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely.
And I would just tell, the small business community or just the business community out there in general that if you're looking to do business with a public agency like DART, or if you've ever thought about maybe you haven't worked in transportation in the past, DART will welcome you with open arms. We have a very open door policy when it comes to any of our new businesses, but especially our minority women-owned businesses. We have a place in our agency for you to come to talk to have any questions answered. And we have extremely strong goals at our agency. We have a strong support from our CEO when it comes to minority women-owned business inclusion in our procurement activities. Just last year, we achieved 51% of every single procurement dollar that was spent went to minorities and women. So that's over half of our dollars. So we have that equated to $250 million. So on an annual basis, we're about $500 million just last year. And again, half of that went to minority women-owned businesses. So we have a very strong program. We have a very inclusive program at DART, and we're looking forward to doing business with you now and in the future.
Gabriel, you're doing amazing things. I love the passion. I love your background. Please hang in there. I know there's changes going on as we speak. But in closing to the audience, I hope you heard, for all our small businesses, don't give up the fight. Keep the fight. And until we see each other again, be blessed.